Good evening, ladies and
Good evening.
gentlemen. We are resilient. We are war. We're here to chat. Say a couple things. I got people have been very careless the last few days in
In what
their
way, Mike?
use. They've been, telling people the Tobin Bridge is open 24/7. Go fly off of it.
Are these just people in general, massholes, or our community?
These are mass holes. Hold on 1 second. I just gotta let Emily know that I'm live so she doesn't keep calling for me. 1 second.
Yeah, no problem.
So these are mass holes associated with folks in the Karen Reed community.
Like the Karen who's on trial.
Yeah. So there's supporters, and because the situation's over in criminal court, people show like, hey, let's we can't get views anymore, so they are stoking drama between factions, and it's turned from playful banter into people telling each other to unalive themselves.
The Karen Reed trial, man, was just a messed up situation. I didn't even know where to begin on that one. I mean, and the real thing for me was it was the first time a podcast, Turtle Boy, had really figured into a criminal investigation. Like, some people really credit Turtle Boy for, blowing the case open and getting the attention that it did, but he paid a price for it. So
Yep.
I've been reluctant to, chime in with any opinion or anything, because I don't know. And there's real repercussions if you speak out of turn, right? But to tell people to unalive themselves.
Yep. So one thing that we do have, that veterans do have in our back pocket to make sure that we're keeping an eye on each other is, if you up in the corner over there, you see the little smiley face.
Yep.
It's a buddy check. Call each other. Check in. At the lowest level, we know one another. We know if something's off, and if somebody needs help or needs to be able to reconnect or reset themselves. So
Right.
as long as we stay in contact, we stay in communication, we can do well in this fight. But so I after seeing these multiple things, I had to post something on Twitter. I'll read it real quick. I don't know how to share. Can you share the screen? One sec. You guys are learning with me. Thank you. All right, so I'm gonna click on my Twitter and then see if I can just share the page. All right, down the bottom, I'm guessing a little plus sign maybe.
Yeah, it's a plus sign.
All right, shows share scheme. Green. All right. And then I'm gonna pick this one here and share. All right, so there's here's my page. Here's what Hellfish Haven does. Things that we want to collaborate on. Here's us. Hi, us. Here's the day 26 of the February Fire Watch.
Yep.
And then here's the post that I put up. The guy's name. I'm glad that suicide is such a, effing joke to you. For the families of more than 141,000 veterans that have died by suicide since 2001, it is not. I've had to bury more of my soldiers here in the Commonwealth than I did in combat. Cut the shit. Got it? And then I shared a very good infographic that the Behavioral Health Helpline put out.
Yeah.
And it gives you, your three choices. You're in distress, you're in, despair. Do you need to call 988 for, immediate, emotional support? Do you need to call the helpline to, get referred to somebody? Or you need to go visit, one of the community behavioral health centers, in the Commonwealth to be able to get, that one-on-one.
Okay.
It's a great, little infographic there that if, folks get the chance that they should really, take advantage of. All right. So we can close that up, stop that share. They said that's just, a good, resource to have with that. And then that number is just, I don't know, it's just really mind blowing to me that, 141,000 since, 2001. Because I look back at some of the sites that I'm looking at, it says over 120,000 like 3 or 4 years ago. And it's like, just seeing that number continue to grow, what we're doing isn't working.
Well, that's the thing. I had somebody well-meaning, ask this question, like, look, man, we've done the 23-day thing. I've given all this money. I've done this. I've done the runs and gone to here, gone to there. And now I find out that really, honestly, the number hasn't moved all that much. Like, what's going on? And it's hard to explain it. I wanted to bounce, since we're talking about it, I want to bounce something off you.
Mm-hmm.
I talked to Frank Larkin, who's a Navy SEAL, Sergeant Arms for the White House, whose son was a Navy SEAL, and he killed himself. And
Mm-hmm.
Frank believes, because Frank, his father is like, my son went to the VA and got the pills and it didn't help. And he's like saying, we got to look at this aspect of physiological damage, not for everybody.
Yep.
But when you look at certain things that certain people, members of the military, do and what they're exposed to, it kind of does make sense. Like, maybe, I'm not saying there's not a mental, psychological, emotional component to it. I'm not saying that. But I can see where if you're like a motorman, or you work in a high noise environment, or you're going in some of these machines that really put your body through the ringer, there is that. And then I read this, and I can share with anybody. The VA did a study on loneliness, man.
Yes.
I really think, and here's why I'm asking you, Mike, is we've done all this stuff. There's thousands of resources available. There's thousands of nonprofits, and it's not really moving. If I want to be candid with you, it's not really moving, which I think is what part of your angst is right now. And I can tell you're kind of angry about this. It's not moving. But maybe it's not complex programs and medical stuff. Maybe it's just as simple as what you said at the outset of this, the buddy check. Hey, how are you doing, man? Or, hey, I'm playing some Destiny tonight with the bros. You want to come join me? Or, we're going to run a raid, in Arc Raiders. Come with me. Or, hey, man, we're just going to go down and grab a Dunks and hang out for a while. Maybe it's just simple stuff and not these, because I don't know anymore. Like I am running out of things to say about this.
And that's one of the things that we're pushing with the Haven is we don't need to be diagnosing people. We don't need to be giving people a medicine cabinet full of different colored pills for each day. Let's get back to the basics and give people the community that they lost when they separated from the service. And you've got like you said, there's a bunch of organizations. This is a great one right here. Operation Overwatch project,
Yeah.
their motto is just fucking ask. If somebody's doing okay, if somebody's, not feeling right, just ask them, hey man, are you okay?
Yep.
And then, another one, the veteran suicide rate is 57% higher than the national average. So we are more than double the national average for suicide rate. And then again, this was an older graphic, over 120,000. Now we know it's over 141,000, veterans that have died since 2001. And it's another organization, Face the Fight, and they've got, a collaborative that they're building, with different organizations and different, resources. But it's, they start with a basic, tutorial and, education process through Psych Armor, where you can go and you can learn things, about the veteran community if you're not a veteran yourself, and learn how to, connect, talk with them, understand what's going on. And then, whether if you're an employer, if you're, a church leader, a member of a community organization, different things that, you deal with veterans in your life, Psych Armor does have, great resources where you can go log in and, and learn about, veterans. You can learn about caregivers. You can learn about, all these different aspects. And then there's one site that I really saw that actually blew me out of the water tonight, that I didn't think was going to be like that big. But I want to share screen again. So let's do that. All right, share screen. Okay, share screen. Objective Zero. Have you heard of them?
I've heard of them.
So Objective Zero, when you click their resources, it has you click a big red button in the middle of the screen, and it brings you here. So v2.objectivezeroapp.com. And I start scrolling down. Crisis support, financial resources, veteran service member support, PTSD resources, food and shelter, military and veteran spouses and families, volunteer training, Department of Veteran Affairs resources and mobile apps, transition resources, suicide prevention information, lethal means safety, military veterans and caregivers, comeback yoga, warrior at ease yoga and meditation, mindfulness and meditation, American Legion posts, Louisiana resources, Minnesota resources, support groups, domestic and sexual violence resources, peer support, service and therapy animals, hunting, fishing, sports, outdoors. I mean, this list is pretty amazing. Spiritual, substance abuse, wellness for the body and mind, healthcare and home care, podcasts, inspiration, the OZ blog, education and scholarships, gaming and coding, and other opportunities. It's just that is a very well put together resource page. So if you're looking for a one-stop shop for resources that are out there for the the veteran in your life, or the veterans that you work with, Operation Objective Zero. Sorry, I keep wanting to say Operation for some reason. It was Objective Zero, and they have that great site.
Well, this is the other thing. I'm like, if you're hungry, need clothes, need the basic needs, man, there are orgs out there that you might have to fill out an application. You might have to take a phone call or two. You might have to get real, swallow your pride, whether you want to or not, right? But make no mistake, man, if you there's a part of me that gets frustrated, and I'm trying to articulate this the right way, but it's almost like if you're not getting help, you're choosing not to get help. And I don't know if that's the right thing, but I'm like, there are orgs out there that if we were to call them up and say, hey, we got a veteran here who hasn't had a decent meal in a month, no groceries, it would be fixed.
Yep.
Or at least, stabilized to a point where more help could be given. And I don't know. And then here's the thing, to your point, and look at all those things right there. Maybe you're not into, whatever you're into, there's something for it now that's veteran centric if you want to take advantage of it.
Hey,
There's
Wendy.
almost in a way too much. I'm like, oh my God. I mean, there's something for everything.
Mm-hmm. And that's the other thing that, can be overwhelming about this is like, you don't know what resource to go to or who to, to go with a certain problem. And then, some of these, bigger resources have got so bloated and so, stuck to their mission statement and what they can do and who they can provide, care for and how they provide it, that they basically, have got themselves into a little bubble where they can only help, 10% of the veteran population. Like, when I got guys that are calling me that used to be patients at home base and they've been trying to get help, but they don't know where to go and they're not getting, referred assistance from, the social teams, the social workers, the psychologists, the psychiatrists. And these guys, have to turn to another organization like mine to be able to get help to make sure that they're able to, uh, you know, resubmit their paperwork to, get their housing, approved for the next year, to, be able to, go from, being in a small, tiny 1-bedroom apartment to a 2-bedroom. So, them and their, pets can have a little more room and be more comfortable. And it's just, it's weird to me that, these big organizations don't have more that they can do for folks. And it comes down to, organizations like Hellfish Haven, New Englanders Helping Our Veterans, came out there and gave me assistance with that too, And if we hadn't been out there, ensuring this guy got his apartment and, got the keys for it, a couple days later, they were like, oh, we shouldn't have given you those keys. And it's like the fact that we had a couple of nonprofits out there, standing in front of, management was able to get, the process taken care of where they were going to, take care of this guy and, backdoor him at the last second.
It's, and I talked about this. This is why I think there's a correction coming. This is why I think some people are gonna be like, what are you actually doing for veterans? And you sent me, you sent me that text about that nonprofit ripping off veterans, and I'm like, you and I both know it's been going on. That's just the tip of the iceberg. So, I still go back to this thing where I'm like, it's not. I appreciate when researchers, caregivers, clinicians, doctors want to do advanced studies and offer different kinds of stuff. Great. But I got to tell you, Mike, I'm still like, wait a minute, maybe we need to get back to just basics of being human beings. And I don't care what it is. It could be D&D, Warhammer, playing cards, Mahjong, chess, Nintendo Switch, whatever it is, board games, puzzle meetups, reading clubs, whatever it is. But, just ask how, or so simple. Hey, man, haven't heard from you in a while. I thought about you. How are you doing? I miss you.
Yep.
I don't know about you, man. There's been some times in my life where that like, oh yeah, someone actually missed me. Wow. That did more for me than anything else.
Yeah, the buddy check is really, a powerful, tool that we have out there. And, just calling somebody, and vets, I feel like, are a good class of people that you can, do this with, because they can, go back and talk to somebody that they haven't spoke with, 2 or 3 years, and you can jump right back in and, you don't have to feel that awkwardness of being like, I'm sorry, I haven't talked to you for 2 years. You know, it's just, hey man, glad you're here now.
Glad you're here now.
Speaking of folks that are glad they are here, we had 2 Medal of Honor recipients that have been newly introduced into the, the hall of those that have received here. And just got a picture here, the Navy and Army, both of our, parent branches. I know you don't like to be part of the Navy, but still been there.
What is?
But I mean, for the the captain to be able to get this award, and the CW5, it's just outstanding to see, and like to see a CW5 is just crazy too. Like,
Those even real?
So a funny story: I saw a Marine Corps CW5 when I was out on the Syrian border on my 3rd tour. We were at this little tiny little cop, and he was a CW5. He had all like the tools for the base. Like, we didn't have much on the base, but this guy had like a shed with all these power tools, all this stuff, and like he had he was an expert. He collected all the stuff that he needed, and made sure that folks on base were able to operate and repair stuff if they needed to, and he lent out the tools to folks as they needed it. But when he was wearing his silkies and his green shirt, he always had like a little fanny pack on. And it was like, what is that? Like, folks, we'd see it and we're like, what is it? The chief's got to have something, crazy in there that, that's just mind blowing. That's going to be like, that's something that like, back in Nam, this is what we needed. And, crazy story that goes along with it. And then one day we're at Chow, we see him walk in, he goes up to the fridge, opens the thing, grabs a thing of banana milk and strawberry milk, puts it in his fanny pack, and brings it back to his little living quarters. And that's all it was just to get the milk. We thought we were going to get
they march to their own
lesson.
beat. They do march to their own beat. That is a fact.
And then today's prompt was, what's the next objective for your mental wellness campaign? And at the Haven, we are looking at March, and let's pull up the Word doc. One second. So that's February. Firewatch is rounding up. Coming to an end. We've got 2 more days to post online, and then March we're gonna focus on resilience isn't white knuckling. We're gonna do sustainable resilience. Talk about burnout awareness. Without all the crazy buzzwords. Problem focus. Versus emotional focus coping. Reframing adversity. The key sort of stuff that we're going to do is resilience coping exercises. Go over bonus resilience PDFs, stress assignment, reframing content, and just week 1 will be what resilience really is. Week 2, stress that builds versus breaks. Week 3, reframing adversity, and then week 4, small habits that compound.
Yeah.
So if you could just little things to just have something out there instead of, like you said, there's so much information out there and so many resources and so many medical things and so many mental health programs and information that I feel if I can take things and break it down a little section for each month, it's better to share folks that way that they can take it in and understand it better versus being like, here's 282 pages of the Marine Corps Leadership Resilience Program.
Yeah.
because I don't understand how like folks wind up dealing with that and go through those things. It's like it's crazy to see how that all is. And then I just started a program that is resiliency based. Let me see if I have the name of it. Pull up my email. I just had the first class today. So it's going to be like an oral exam on like leadership and resilience. And it's a 5-module course. And so I sat down with the instructor today and we did like a 2.5 hour, you go back and forth talking about, the different things, because when they give you the exam, you have to do the same thing. It's an oral exam. But the course itself was supposed to be like $500. And the people that run it saw that I was a veteran and that I had a nonprofit and offered me to be able to have the course pro bono.
Oh, very nice, man.
So they waived it, which to me, blew my mind that, they were willing to do that. Because I was looking at it, I still have, some post 9/11 GI Bill left. So I figured, I would just use, a little bit of that for the course and that would cover it. But, now I don't have to use that at all. Where is RBLP support? So Resilience Building Leader Program. And they're out of Rapid City, South Dakota.
Oh, wow.
And they do a leadership certificate program. So I figured, just something else that I can be able to, to add to the toolkit to be able to share with folks and, let them know what's going on out there and, just, be able to build up things that I can share with others. Like, again, I don't like when people, take a course and then they keep it to themselves. And then, they take all these things and, hold it in. It's like, he was the most information, wins. No, you want to learn something and then be able to, train the trainer with it, share it with the next one. And RBLP leadership certifications, Marketplace Resilience Building Leadership Program, Inc., 625 Main Street, Rapid City. RBLP.com. And yeah, it was just really nice of those guys to, to be able to, cover that one for us and, be able to show that, we had this to be able to, share with the folks, that come to events. And we will be having a one this weekend, being last Saturday of the month, another coffee and camaraderie. So if you guys are in the North Attleboro area, please swing by, enjoy board games, card games, got, Rock'em Sock'em Robots. So the folks are really excited about that. I got that one with the ball that goes down the 2 metal pieces, like Shoot the Moon.
Oh, yeah?
Where you got the metal ball that rolls down.
Nice.
And then I got one game where it's like you're supposed to be able to close the lid. And I've never seen it before, but like it was saying it was a popular game where like you start with all these tiles flipped up. Every time you roll a number, you get to flip one down. So it's like an old, like just wooden dice game.
Cool, man. Cool, man. Well, anything else on your mind?
That's it this evening. How did the show go tonight?
It went well. I had Deputy Secretary Andrew Galbin on, kind of year 2 of doing, Oscar Mike Radio on Black History Month, and she was gracious enough to come on and talk with me. And, she had a lot of good wisdom to pass. And, just again reminds me how much I don't know about the military and the military experience, even though, I've been in it and, studied it. But also, I don't care what you feel about DEI, but, these Black Americans serve honorably in some cases at great sacrifice, and we should not forget them. We should make sure they're honored. Absolutely.
Especially the story of the was it the 3888?
The Harlem Hellfighters, and the Mass 54th. The Mass
Mhm.
54th is from the Civil War, and the Harlem Hellfighters were from World War One. And if you've ever studied World War One, man, that was not it's not like it is now. So just really, really cool. She's a very busy person, has a lot going on, but I really appreciate the time she took to talk with me. And I'm going to do it again next year.
Yep, and I know that we'll be working with her and her GAV post in April during April vacation to be able to do a like a game night, game day event
Yes.
up there, so that way we can plan it out, advertise it, and share that with folks and be able to say, hey, kids are home, looking for something to do, bring them over to the DAV. We'll have games set up again, so you can do the outreach, you can share the information that's going on, you can let them know, hey, this program is going on, these are new things, like we saw that they're not basing your veterans CMP, your rating as income for certain programs anymore federally.
Oh, nice.
Things like that we need to get out there and get shared, so that way folks will be able to share that and get better, ratings and things like that, because they were upset that people weren't be able to qualify for, home loans and, certain assistance because, their VA rating was too high.
Wow.
But thank you, for jumping on with me later tonight. And, again, suicide, it's not something to be joking about. And, if you do need help, there's 988, there's the behavioral health line, there's community, community behavioral centers that you can go to. And, there's just so many reasons to be out there and to keep fighting. Don't let, somebody online says, a lot of these guys, they get behind the keyboard and all of a sudden they're, the toughest guy in the world. And it's just really sad to see, and calling out people and and telling them to kill themselves because they they made fun of you or they called you a name. Like, it just really shows that you either got to take a break from the internet or you got to do something else, because that's not an appropriate response.
No. Yeah.
And always never give up.
Never give up.
So, thank you guys for joining us tonight. We are WAR, we are resilient, and we will see you guys next week in March.
Thank you very much. We'll see you next time.
There we go, guys.
All right, man. I'm going to head to bed. It's been a long day.
Hold on.